Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 306. As always, I am your host, Lance Brock. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but this is going to be a quick episode. I'm going to talk about a couple shows. First, gonna start off, get right into it. Last Friday night, which was right here in Michigan, just a few hours away though, in Grand Rapids at the Van Andel Arena, AEW Rampage, live on TNT. The AEW Interim World Champion Jon Moxley defeated Mance Warner, and I have said on the podcast before that, to be honest, I am not really a big fan of Mance Warner, of what I've seen of him in GCW, MLW, and some other indies, but on Rampage I thought he looked really good in this match against Jon Moxley. And Konosuke Kashka defeated the Hollywood Hunk, Ryan Nemeth, and Madison Rayne in her AEW in-ring debut, defeated Layla Gray, and then Jade Cargill comes out and attacks Madison. And also that night, the taping of Battle of the Belts 3, which aired Saturday night on TNT, and the AEW TNT champion Wardlow successfully defends against Jay Lethal, but then after the match Wardlow is attacked by Saddam Singh. The AEW Women's Championship is on the line. Thunder Rosa defeats Jamie Hayter in a pretty good match, and the main event of Battle of the Belts 3 for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Claudio Castagnoli successfully defends against Konosuke Kashka. And this one was a really good match. Definitely enjoyed this one. William Regal joined Jim Ross, Taz, and Excalibur on commentary. And I definitely just gotta say this one, I recommend, if you missed Battle of the Belts, that this match is definitely worth checking out if you didn't see it. And now, let's move on over to Monday Night Raw. But first I just want to say, I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, but right now we are right on Spreaker, the main home of 360 Wrestling Podcast, and all the other podcast websites you can find 360 Wrestling Podcast, and also once again on Anchor.fm. We're back on there. It's been a little bit since 360 Wrestling Fanatic has been on Anchor. So if you're someone who only listens to the podcast on Anchor, you're hearing us tonight. And I'm sure we will be back on Anchor for some episodes. Not sure how often we'll be on Anchor or when we'll be back on Anchor. So the main podcast website to listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast is on Spreaker. But you can, like I said, you can also listen to Anchor or pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. Spotify, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and more than that, which I can't think of right now. But like I said, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to 360. And now it's time for Monday Night Raw, live from Cleveland, Ohio. We find out that at Clash at the Castle, it will see a 6-woman tag team match. Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky taking on the team of Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. Should be a good match to see. Seth Rollins defeated Angelo Dawkins. And then we see in the back, Rey Mysterio tells Edge that it's cool, that it was just a misunderstanding after Edge spearing Dominic last week on Raw. But Dominic isn't having any of it. He's upset with Rey for taking Edge's side. He storms off. And Rey is in action against Finn Balor on Raw. And he says Dom will be in his corner. And then it's time for the match. But Dominic Mysterio is not in his father's corner. And we find out why Rhea Ripley comes out with Dominic Mysterio, who has been attacked. Of course, that distracts Rey. He starts to go out there, but then he's pulled back in the ring by Finn Balor. Balor gets the win. Interesting to see what is going to happen next in this angle. Could it be Dominic end up turning heel, turning on his father? We'll just have to wait and see. Women's tag team action up next, and it is the first round match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Dakota Kai and Io Sky defeat the team of Dana Brooke and Tamina Snuka. The United States Championship was on the line. Bobby Lashley defeated Tommaso Ciampa. Or, I forgot again, it's just Ciampa now. They took away his first name. But, pretty good match here though. Omos has a squash handicap match. Dolph Ziggler defeated Chad Gable. The main event of Monday Night Raw, AJ Styles defeats The Miz in a no disqualification match. And I just want to mention something real quick. During a backstage segment earlier on in the night Raw, I believe it was Edge and Rey Mysterio in the back, and in the background you could see Nikki ASH and Doudrop looking at what looks like a car crash. And then at the end of the night, after the main event, after AJ Styles defeated The Miz, we see this commotion going on in the crowd, and it's the return of Dexter Lumis as he's taken away by security. the former Samuel Shaw. His name Dexter Loomis, right? Yeah, was his name in NXT. And did he get called up to the main roster before he was released? I don't think so. I could be wrong though, but he's back in the company. As we saw last Friday night on SmackDown, it was the return of Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux, or what did they call him? Karrion Kross in WWE. And I'm sure everybody remembers the last time he was in WWE, he did get called up to the main roster, and it definitely was not as successful as a run he had on NXT or back when he was Killer Kross in Impact Wrestling. So hopefully now with Triple H running creative, that this might be a better run for Killer or Karrion Kross. I better get used to saying in WWE. Looks like he's going to be on SmackDown. He attacked Drew McIntyre. Kind of looks like they're putting him right in a main event angle right away. Starting off pretty big. And some other news I want to talk about real quick before I wrap this podcast up. It's reported that apparently Sasha Banks and Naomi agreed to terms on a WWE comeback. I don't think this has been actually confirmed just yet, but I've seen on the Ringside News app get notifications on my phone that reportedly they've agreed to terms. And I was thinking maybe on Raw tonight they would announce maybe them in the tournament, but they did not. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything though, because they could, at the end of this tournament, possibly whoever wins the women's tag team championships, they could come out and challenge them. Just have to wait and see what happens there. And I wonder though, if they do come back, if they're going to have any heat with any of the other wrestlers in the locker room. Yes, wrestlers. And that reminds me, apparently it's being reported that Triple H has taken pro wrestlers and wrestling off the banned words list, which they were previously on that list, but now you're actually allowed to say wrestling and pro wrestlers on WWE TV. And that's it for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 306. Thank you everyone for tuning in wherever you're listening. Like I said, we were on Anchor for this episode, and anywhere you can listen to podcasts, but the main one you should be listening on is Spreaker. I'm bad at it, but I'll try to post on the social media where you can listen, the links. I'll try to. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or anything, or just want to say hi, the email is 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. That'll be in the description. Also in the description, you can see how to support 360 Wrestling Podcast if you can. Anchor.fm/360-wrestling-podcast 360. Also, I think you can still donate while we're not streaming. Streamlabs.com/360 Wrestling Podcast. Hopefully, I will try eventually to get back to streaming. Hopefully, I'll figure out Streamlabs. Haven't really figured it out just yet, but hopefully, I will eventually. But if you have any extra money and you want to help a 360 Wrestling Podcast out, once again, that's streamlabs.com/360 Wrestling Podcast, and I will also put that in the description. Real quick, while I'm thinking of it, I'm all over the place, but last night, with A&E, the biography show, Lex Luger, which I thought was pretty good, the week before Kurt Angle, also a very good one, and Rivals, not too bad of a show, and then this Sunday night, DX on biography. This Saturday night, Impact Wrestling Emergence, their Impact Plus special for this month. Hopefully we'll have a recap of that show. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Hope to be back soon with another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. But until the next episode, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling